Hello everybody, this is Bird Brain here, where we are nerdy for the birdies. The Eagles' second preseason game has just ended. The Eagles are 2-0 in the preseason, and for the first time in the last few years, have a winning preseason record. First time in the Nick Sirianni era, and there's things to talk about. So, as you know, we do this thing called the post-game ponder here, where we just talk about the game. And we're going to talk about Eagles Patriots, my thoughts. I had 5 observations that I want to get through, so without further ado, let's get into that. First observation. I thought this game was a step backwards from last week. Last week we had a lot of things to talk about, a lot of positives. I think this game in some ways was a step back, but was a resilient effort at the end. And, you know, that's the big thing. Is, look, not every game is going to be perfect. You're not always going to do everything you want to do. You're not going to execute the way you want to execute. But if you can bounce back and continue to fight and stay in the game, then you will always have opportunities. I thought the Eagles in this game, for large stretches, were undisciplined. I thought we saw mistakes that we weren't seeing last week. We saw missed assignments on defense. Receivers and quarterbacks not being on the same page, stuff like that. And look, it's the preseason, it's going to happen. Chemistry levels with each player aren't exactly all even because everyone's rotating in and out. And it's going to be hard, but they have to work on those things. You know, the things I talked about last week, converting the ball on third down, you know, stopping third downs on the other side, those weren't there this week, so we need to see that back again. The penalties we talked about last week. Now, they didn't have as many penalties, but they felt like a lot of those were crucial penalties. You know, a roughing the passer call that extends the drive, a delay of game after taking a sack in the red zone, costs you points. You know, these things matter. So, obviously the Eagles won, and I said this last week, I'm not a huge, you know, oh, they won the preseason games, so that means they were good. I don't judge preseason games on whether they win or lose. I look at how the individual groups do, and then overall base the performance, and I thought this was a weaker performance. I thought there was a lot of plays left on the table, a lot of mistakes made, and, you know, we'll get into more of that as we go through this video, but more or less, yeah, it just really wasn't our week from last week. Or really wasn't our week this week compared to last week, I should say. And our second observation, the right guard battle might be over. Mekhi Becton did not suit up in this game. Tyler Steen did, and he left the game with an ankle injury. It might just be Mekhi Becton's job, and maybe it's been that way for longer than we even think. You know, we the public aren't privy to certain information. But look, if Mekhi Becton can come in and learn the right guard position and outplay Steen, who, look, is a younger player, you know, a lot of people kind of penciled him in as the starting right guard because he was kind of the best option on the roster, but if other guys come in and play better than him, they deserve the spot. And, you know, I think Mekhi Becton's played well enough to earn it, and look, the Eagles like bigger guards, and he kind of fits that mold. Yeah, really not much else to say on that point. It's just kind of an interesting note to have. I think this is going to be a longer one, and that's really the battle of QB2, in quotes. More so, Pickett and McKee. And, you know, I thought Pickett played fine in Baltimore last week. I didn't think he played as well this week. I'm still a Pickett is QB2 kind of guy, because there's a lot more to being the backup quarterback than simply just playing in games. And you watch preseason games and you say, oh, this guy had a better performance than this guy, but it's like there's reasons and a lot of things happen, the chemistry level, stuff like that. You know, McKee has been with the Eagles longer than Pickett, so he knows the players better. And Pickett's only been here since March. So his chemistry levels, his, you know, ability to gel with the offense isn't going to be there. That being said, you know, I really wish Pickett would be a little more aggressive with the football. And look, he wasn't really known for being a deep ball thrower in Pittsburgh. That really wasn't their game. But I want to see him push the ball downfield, and he had a couple attempts. And I thought the play to John Ross, I thought the ball Pickett threw was fine. I think John Ross has to do a better job of tracking that. I expect him, you know, someone with his experience to be able to track a ball like that. I mean, you're a deep threat wide receiver. Tracking a ball should be second nature to you. If you're not a good deep threat receiver that can't track it, you're not going to be, this is why John Ross hasn't had the career that people thought he would when he was coming out. McKee looked really sharp tonight. Obviously, a lot of big plays, led them to their only touchdown drive, had the game-winning 2-point conversion. He made a lot of great throws, got the ball around the field. He made a pass that probably could have ended the game if Jacob Harris gets his other leg in bounds. But again, I thought he looked sharp, he looked smart, he was great, and there's nothing wrong with him being your QB3. If he's your QB3, you're pretty comfortable at quarterback. When I watch Kenny Pickett, the things that I do like is, look, he's not going to put the ball in harm's way, and he really hasn't done that. He hasn't been overly aggressive, which isn't necessarily a good thing, but it's also not a bad thing. And if I compare him watching Mariota from a year ago, and Pickett, I would much rather have Pickett as a backup than Mariota. Mariota brings more of the athleticism that Jalen has, but I think Pickett's better with the ball, he's more accurate, and he doesn't put the ball in as much danger as Mariota did. And we saw that in the final regular season game when he came in, he just wasn't sharp at all, wasn't being able to get the ball to really anybody. I feel comfortable that if something happens, God forbid, Jalen has to miss a game and Pickett plays with the starters, I think he'd be fine. I think Tanner McKee would be fine. I don't think it's really a big deal to argue over both. I think it's fine to have both and you're happy with both. I know people, some people don't like the fact that Pickett was traded for a third-round pick and other things like that, but, not the time to talk about that, but that's a whole other conversation. Anyway, so that was an interesting battle to see tonight. Obviously, you'd argue McKee won it, but again, I don't think it's that big a deal in the grand scheme of things. We don't need to have a quarterback controversy every single year, people. A more positive note. A lot of defensive players flashed today, and ones that we didn't see as much last week, some of which, like Zach Bond, Bryce Huff made some nice plays. Even especially among the third-team defensive players, Terrell Lewis, Thomas Booker really had a nice night. Gabe Hall had a great chase down on a play. So I thought the pressure, it was really lacking to begin the game, but I think it got better and better as the game went on. Nolan Smith had another sack. Just trying to think. Obviously, Maddox had the pick. He had made a great play there. It's nice to see him kind of bounce back after giving up the completion to Hooper. I thought that this game was kind of up and down, where I thought some players who had stronger performances, like Keely Ringo, I thought had a stronger performance last week than he did this week. And he had a big play where, what's his name? Baker for the Patriots. Javon Baker. This should have been a catch. This should have been a deep ball, and it just never survived the ground. And those are the kind of plays that, the Patriots are going to want back, and they're going to want to make it. And I didn't think Keely really affected why that ball was incomplete. Keely, I don't know if it was his fault he got beat or not, but I didn't think he was as sharp. I didn't think Bradbury had his best performance. I didn't notice Trotter as much this week, certain things like that. But again, a lot of defensive guys flashed, and the ones that flashed, not all of them, but some of those guys are going to play snaps for this team, and you want to see these guys make plays now so that when it's time for them to play in the regular season, they can continue to make plays. And my last note is the offensive line depth was tested tonight, and this was one of the biggest things that, we had to deal with. There were some injuries, there were some guys who had to come in. Things are going to matter. When you're the backup center, you have to get the snaps out cleanly. We saw the Patriots lose the game for that reason. The Eagles failed to convert on fourth down because of a bad snap, and these things, have to be worked out on. You have to continue to, get better at that. You have to handle it. I mean, I thought there were times where Pickett was playing, and look, there was just nobody open. Now, in those situations, I'd rather Pickett throw it away than take a sack, but, in those spots, he's getting beat up in the pocket. You'd really want to see offensive linemen step up, because when you have guys that can step up and play various roles and do them well, you'll have a better chance of staying power on this team. So I definitely think the depth was tested today. Obviously, they're starting to get banged up there. Tyler Steen is injured. Matt Hennessy is injured. So hopefully they can recover. But yeah, all in all, I mean, I thought this was a step back from last week. But, you know, the Birds still won. They took care of business. That's what you want to see. I'm looking to see continual improvement. And I want to continue to see guys flash. Because you have one more big preseason game next week against the Minnesota Vikings. And it'd be nice to see them finish with a clean sweep of the preseason. Be nice to see them continue to grow. So yeah, this has been Bird Brain. Fly Eagles Fly. I will see you around, guys.